A Trogglehumper for the Fleshlumpeater. They is always having 50 wings before they go scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every then and now, he said. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurred to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I must admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. This human being who says he is 50 has been fast asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. It's a funny thought, Sophie said. Exactly, the BFG said. So what I was trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is 50 is not 50, he's only 30. What about me? Sophie said. I am 8. You was not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little chiddlers are spending half their time sleeping, so you was only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You is only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who has hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They is never wasting much time snozzling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. What do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I am sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum frog, he cried. I was just having the most wopsy whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just you wait to see what I was going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of buck swashling both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said, then you will get a fine winkle of what is going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes toward the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the Bloodbottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the Fleshlumpeater. He pointed at him, then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the Fleshlumpeater's face. The snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and again, a big bubble of spit formed between his two open lips, and then it would burst with a splash and cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggly, squirming, faintly scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the Fleshlumpeater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then woof, he blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting toward the giant's face. For a split second, it hovered above the face, but then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose, but it had all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. "We had better be skilling away quick to where it is safe," the BFG whispered. He tried off for about 100 yards, then he stopped. He crouched low to the earth. "Now," he said, "we was waiting for the gun and flames to begin." They didn't have long to wait. The air was suddenly pierced by the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard, and she saw the Fleshlumpeater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump. Then it began to wriggle and twist and bounce about it in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. "Yow!" roared the Fleshlumpeater. "Aye! Ow!" "He's still asleep," the BFG whispered. "The terrible Troggle-humping nightmare is beginning to hit him." "Serves him right," Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. "Save us!" screamed the Fleshlumpeater, thrashing about madly. "He is after me! He is getting me!" The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms became more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to watch such a massive creature having such mighty convulsions. "It's Jack!" bellowed the Fleshlumpeater. It's the grufful, grunchious Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whack-crackling me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splash-plunking me! It's a terrible, fright-swiping Jack! The Fleshlumpeater was writhing about over the ground like some colossal tortured snake. "Oh, spare me, Jack!" he yelled. "Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who is this Jack he's on about?" Sophie whispered. "Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of," the BFG told her. "They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is the famous giant killer." "Save me!" screamed the Fleshlumpeater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant! The beanstalk! He is coming at me with his terrible spike-sticking beanstalk! Take it away! I is begging you, Jack! I is praying you not to touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk!" "Us giants," the BFG whispered, "is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is knowing only that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called the beanstalk. We is knowing also that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing and Jack is using it to kill giants." Sophie couldn't stop smiling. What is you giggling at?" the BFG asked her, slightly nettled. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was tying his whole body into knots. "Do not do it, Jack," he screeched. "I was not eating you, Jack. I is never eating human beings. I swear I have never gobbled a single human being in all my wholesome life." "Liar," said the BFG. Just then, one of the Fleshlumpeater's flailing fists caught the still fast asleep, meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring, gizzard-gulping giants right in the guts. Both the injured giants woke up and leaped to their feet. "He is swiping me right in the mouth," yelled the meat dripper. "He is bung swoggling me smack in the guts," shouted the gizzard gulper. The two of them rushed at the Fleshlumpeater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched Fleshlumpeater woke up with a bang. He awoke straight from one nightmare into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping, rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped upon or kicked. Soon, all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and bit and butted each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed, noses went crunch, teeth fell out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of battle roared across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big white smile of absolute pleasure. "I was loving it when they is all having a good tough and rumble," he said. "They'll kill each other," Sophie said. "Never," the BFG answered. "Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky, and they will be galloping off to fill their tummies." "They're coarse and foul and filthy," Sophie said. "I hate them." As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," Sophie said. "Well done, you."